Do you ever remember your heart go big bim, big bim, big bim, and you thought your heart was going to stop? Or your hands trembled so much you had to hide them in your pocket? That was probably anxiety. Hi guys, my name is Omotola and I wear many caps. In today's video, I'm going to be wearing the cap of your favorite psychiatrist. I want us to know that anxiety is something that is very common and it could happen to anybody. And when I say anyone, it could happen to you, it could happen to me. While I don't wish that happens, I just want to educate us on what anxiety is, what some of the symptoms could be, and how we can treat or avoid it. And if you're watching this video and you feel that I don't have anxiety, I'm always a confident person, there's no way anxiety is coming near me, that's fine and that's cool. But you might have one or two persons around you that would be anxious at some point in their lives. So this video is also relevant for you to watch. I want us to think about anxiety as something that is natural to human beings. And even in the Bible, God says that we should be anxious for nothing. And there's no reason why God would be instructing us to be anxious for nothing if there's nothing that induces anxiety. So get me right, there's life is enough to induce anxiety. Waking up in the morning to go to work is enough to induce anxiety. But there are ways that we can cope with all of these stresses. So anxiety is the body's way of reacting to stress or a situation of threat. And it can be protective. That's when it's still within the limits of being normal, but sometimes it can be very limiting, and that's when it becomes a disorder. I'm going to be talking about both of them interchangeably. Now, in a dangerous situation, it is only normal to be anxious, or when we're undergoing a particular form of stress, be it in form of exams or disappointment. It is normal for us to feel shaky, to feel as though we have this pressing need to go to the loo all the time. We have this rumbling sensation in our tummy. But when it becomes persistent, when it becomes something that is uncontrollable, and when it becomes something that is incapacitating, we're not able to go about our daily activities as we should, then it becomes a problem. So remember, anxiety is not necessarily bad, but when it becomes a problem to us and our functioning, then we will need to find a solution to it. Now, what causes anxiety? This is a big question. Some people are just genetically predisposed to having anxiety, just like how a child can have hypertension or diabetes. We don't know what caused it. It wasn't because they were eating a lot of sugar, it's just how they're wired. So that's one thing that could cause anxiety. Another thing that can cause anxiety is not knowing how to cope under stress. And that's some of the things, those are some of the things that I'll be sharing in this video. And so, and extreme situations as well, because I remember that one of the close shaves that I had with anxiety was seeing an accident just right in front of me. And I noticed that the following weeks and months after the accident, I started having this palpitations and I could feel my heart beat, and it felt like my heart was going to stop. I was trembling, and that was not usual with me. But thankfully, it was something that was just short-lived and it went. So you see that anxiety can affect anyone, right? Okay. So having said what anxiety is and what it can and what some of the symptoms are, and I don't know if you are able to relate with some of these symptoms, how can we better manage anxiety or even prevent anxiety as a whole or as a person? So one of the ways to avoid anxiety is to ensure that you try to guard your heart as much as possible. Now, a lot of negative thoughts feed our minds daily, from social media to what people say about us, to people's perspective, to what we say about ourselves. A lot of toxicity and negativity. But if we rewire our minds and begin to trick our minds and say positive things about certain situations, then anxiety can be reduced. For example, you wake up in the morning, it's time to go to work, and you begin to say positive things like, I enjoy my work, even though you don't enjoy it for now. I'm not saying lie to yourself, but you need to trick your mind just to have pleasure in whatever you do. So that should cause some or reduce some of the anxiety. Another tip of coping with anxiety that I found very useful And guess what? It's on our mobile phones, it's everywhere. It's something that you can practice. It's what we call deep breathing. So, what you do is you take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out. So, let's practice it together. So, I'm going to take a deep breath in, holding it, releasing it. So 4 4 4, that makes it simple. And you can do that as many times as possible. If you're about to maybe enter an exam situation or enter a situation that would usually provoke your anxiety, you can do that a couple of times. Don't do it too much, because then you can begin to hyperventilate and then maybe even have a panic attack. But don't do that. Just make sure that you do it just a few times. It relaxes you and helps to set your mind in the right place. Another way to reduce anxiety is to try to be in control of the factors that you can be in control as much as possible. For example, instead of persistently going late to work, you can schedule your time earlier so that you can get there on time to read, so that you can have more time to settle into work. No need to feel anxious that I'm going to get late to work, someone is going to tell me off. There's no need for that. So any external factors that you can put in place to ensure that your anxiety reduces, make sure you do it. Now, I'm going to talk about another way to reduce anxiety, and that is practicing gratitude for the things that you have. Many people are anxious for a lot of things, anxious for the next car, the next house, what happens if I do this, or career progression, whatever. But let's remember to be grateful for what we've got in the moment. In the moment, it's very important. Many of us just try to think about the next thing. What's the next thing? And that's how human wants are. I remember in economics we learned that human wants are insatiable. So there is no way, you can't satisfy human wants. It keeps wanting more and more and more. So if we learn to be grateful for what we have, then we can be less anxious about the future. Now, it sounds like it's all simple and easy, but I do recognize that people truly suffer from anxiety, and it can be incapacitating, it can limit their activities, and it can even make them housebound. So, I'm going to be sharing some of the tips that we can then follow if it becomes this extreme, because I know that sometimes it's something we can handle, we can still function. But as a psychiatrist, I've seen people that have become housebound from anxiety. Yes, they can't go out, they can't even socialize with people. And trust me, there are different kinds of anxiety. There's social anxiety, where people are afraid of being criticized in the public, so they avoid social situations. So if you invite someone to your wedding and they don't attend, it's possible that that's what's going on. I'm just saying. Another example of anxiety disorder would be things like agoraphobia, that the fear of going out, of just leaving their safe space and comfort spaces. So a lot of people have that fear and they just feel stuck in the house. And the worst part is that they keep having, the anxiety feeds into itself. So you have the fear of going out, and then you still keep getting scared of going out, and it just keeps going on and on and on, and it becomes limiting, it becomes incapacitating. So those are just a few examples. I can talk about more later if we're interested in it. But in this kind of situation, I believe that there are different ways that we can approach it, apart from applying these principles that I've spoke about earlier. Another thing is seeking professional help. I mean, it shouldn't get to that point, but once we know that it's beginning to limit our activities, our body functioning, our concentration, it's time to seek the help of a professional. And when I say professional, it means that you need to speak to your psychiatrist. And if you don't have access to a psychiatrist, there are, online materials on how to deal with anxiety that you could have. Remember I said that we had things on our devices. So if you own a smartwatch, start to do meditation, start to do mindfulness, start to use deep breathing exercises. They are all in there, they are all on the phones. In fact, my Fitbit wristwatch, it always tells me when to relax, when to do deep breathing, when to do this, and when to do that. So it is something that we can always make use of. Technology is there, we can always make use of it. So finally, I just want us to remember that anxiety could affect anyone, but there are ways to manage it, and those are some of the ways that we can manage anxiety. So the next time your heart goes boom, 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 or your hands begin to tremble, just take a deep breath in and take it out. But remember that if it is prolonged, then it's time to seek professional help. Bye for now. Remember, I'm your favorite psychiatrist. Show some love by liking, sharing, commenting, and reposting. Thank you. Bye.